What is up? Welcome in Oilers Nation live on a very sunny, very beautiful Wednesday, April 6th. I'm Tyler Yaremchuk, as always, here for the next 15, 20, 25 minutes to talk a little hockey with you. We are live on the Oilers Nation Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and on our YouTube, the Nation Network on YouTube. If you don't subscribe to our YouTube, you are breaking my heart. So please go subscribe to our YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. If you got any questions, drop them in the chat. I will answer anything unless it is related to the Kiss I.O. bagged milk, which I think he made up. I have no reason to believe that was me who sent that tweet. I think I was hacked. No questions on that. It is a pending legal issue. Anyways, like I said, drop in your... see, there's already people tweeting me about the bagged milk thing. Not a chance. Not a chance. Hank tweeted, asked, why don't you press more buttons? You could learn a thing or two from bagged milk. I have plenty of buttons available here. Most of them are serious. I got this one. I think you guys can hear that. I don't have my headphones in, so I don't hear what's going into the mic, but I think you heard that little bit of Cotton Eye Joe there. I have a bunch of hot and cold performers from Oilers Nation Radio.
That's a joke. That's an absolute joke is what it is.
I like that one. I think that's it. Oh, I got producer Liam saying ding dong.
Ding dong.
Hilarious. If you ever need to make Frank Saravalli laugh, you play that. It'll get him going. Frank loves that button. Anyways, Kylie, yes, pending legal issue. I do not believe I owe bagged milk a kiss at all. Taylor, nope, not answering that. So what I am going to do, awkwardly transitioning away from the question Taylor asked me in the Facebook chat, is let's talk a little bit about last night's hockey game. How about them Oilers? Second time in a week, they come away with an overtime victory. Second time in a week, it's Connor McDavid saving the day in the extra frame, although you could probably argue it was Mike Smith saving the day in the extra frame for the Edmonton Oilers. I do have this little fun piece of trivia for you. Connor McDavid scored his fourth OT winner of the year in that game against San Jose, his fourth 3-on-3 goal of the season. That leads the NHL. In fact, there's only three other players who have 3 on the year. Patrick Laine, Tomas Hertl, and Dylan Larkin are the only other players with 3. McDavid's got 4, but Connor McDavid does not lead the NHL in 3-on-3 points this season. He has a total of 5. That is tied for second with Larkin and Ben. And the guy who leads the way has 1 goal and 5 assists. I want to see if anyone can get it without looking it up. Don't ruin it. Don't look it up. But if you have a guess on who you think leads the NHL in 3-on-3 points this season with a total of 6, again, McDavid has 5. Draisaitl is a little bit further down. I think he's got 3 or 4. No, he doesn't have 4. Yeah, Draisaitl must have 3. But who leads the NHL with 6 3-on-3 points this season? Shane says Makar. It is not Cale Makar. They're not on the Colorado Avalanche, actually. Keep the guesses coming. Raj says Jason Robertson. It is not Jason Robertson. There's another guess from Makar over in Twitch. R. Butcher. I don't know how to say that. He says Goudreau. It is not Johnny Goudreau. Sammy says Kucherov. Another guess by Will from Makar. It's not Kucherov, not Makar. I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm going to wait till you all figure it out. But the game last night, McDavid electric, his league-leading 4th OT winner. I think these OT winners are giving him a stronger case for the Hart. I'll admit, I think 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have really given much thought to the idea of McDavid for the Hart. But this run he's on, multiple points in 15 of his last 20. Like, think about that. Down the stretch here, 20 games. He's put up multiple points in 75% of them. That's insane. Bang, we got our winner. Shane, it is Jonathan Huberdeau. Florida Panthers, he's having a historic season. He set the record for most assists by a left winger in a season. You nailed it, though. It is indeed Jonathan Huberdeau, the 100-point man out in Florida, or he's soon to be a 100-point man. Did he hit that mark the other day? I think he did, hey? Either way, 6 of those points have come in 3-on-3 overtime. He did. He's up to 102 on the year, despite only scoring 26 goals. Like, this guy's 76 assists on the season. That is just straight up bananas. But yeah, Jonathan Huberdeau leads the NHL with 6 3-on-3 points. Shane, I don't have anything to give you for winning, but you have my respect. And you can argue how much that would mean to anybody. A bunch of good guesses coming in. But yeah, no, it's Huberdeau in first. Like I said, McDavid, Larkin, and Jamie Benn, surprisingly, are tied for second with 5 points each. And then Zach Werenski, Alex Barkov, Jacob Voracek, Jack Hughes, Chris Letang, and surprisingly, Gustav Forsling are the rest of the leaderboard in terms of guys who have 4 points. Shots on goal at 3-on-3. McDavid and Draisaitl tied for second with Tyler Bertuzzi with 10 each. Evgeny Kuznetsov leads the league. He has 11 shots on net in 3-on-3 overtime. He doesn't have a goal yet. This guy has had 11 looks, 11 chances to win a game for the Washington Capitals, and he has not scored on any of them. Hilarious. Kylie, I think he'll hit it. Yeah. Let's keep moving on. You're talking about Taylor says, I thought assists were called apples, not bananas. Talking about the game last night, though, how about that assist from Mike Smith? I know Will dropped in how about the dueling pumpernickels? How about this for something I will gladly leak right now and not leave as a surprise? Pumpernickel himself, Bernie Nichols, will be on the DFO rundown this Friday, I believe, is when the interview is. I think it's this week, coming up this Friday. Bernie Nichols will have an interview himself, Jason Gregor, Frank Saravalli on the DFO rundown, talk about all these 50, 60 goal guys or potential 60 goal guys in the NHL with Matthews and Draisaitl. But the dueling pumpernickels, Mike Smith, with one of the best plays I've seen from a goalie all season. The last couple of years as well, gloving it down. They're lucky because a lot of times the refs are quick with their whistles, but in 3-on-3, they give them kind of that extra half a second. The Oilers are lucky that they did because, I mean, a beautiful play allowed McDavid to skate right into it. I would describe it as having perfect draw weight, perfect draw weight by Smith. McDavid skates into it, and I couldn't even imagine being a goalie and staring down Connor McDavid full speed 3-on-3 OT. Like, you're borderline helpless at that point, and McDavid made it look easy. Quick flip to the backhand, tucks it just over the top of the pad of James Reimer. Sorry, I was reading Shane's message of James Reimer, and there you go. Hammer 195. That pass was very Turco Rollison-esque. It was very Dwayne Rollison-esque. I mean, obviously you guys know Rolly would do the bat up and whack it out of the air, so it wasn't quite that intense, but drops it, sweeps it up to McDavid, and the Oilers get a massive, massive 2 points. Just looking at the playoff picture now, I can flash that up here. I've been tracking those head-to-head games every week. Originally I had Anaheim listed in those head-to-head games. That ended up not being a game that really affected the standings at all because Anaheim is very far out of it. But you got Edmonton 87. They are now one clear of the LA Kings, which is huge because the Oilers, as you can see, still have that game in hand. They still own the tiebreaker on the LA Kings. And the big one as well, Oilers now 5 points up on the Vegas Golden Knights, each team with just 11 games to go in the regular season. I tweeted it out earlier today. 11 games to go. If the Oilers go 6-4-1, they will hit the 100-point mark for the first time since that 16-17 season as well. That's something Coombsy and I talked about over on the Nation Network YouTube. We were comparing the 16-17 team to this year's team. Give me your thoughts in the chats if you want, but go watch that video when we're done here comparing those two sides. It is an interesting conversation, but 6-4-1, I think the Oilers do it. When you look at their upcoming schedule here, they have shown that they have the ability to just beat the crap out of the bad teams they go up against, right? Go back to halfway through last month, which is when this run really kind of started here. They beat Detroit, Buffalo, Jersey. They beat San Jose, Arizona as well. 5-for-5 beating the subpar teams they go up against, and they beat Anaheim and San Jose again to begin April. 7-for-7 going up against weak opponents and really the last sort of month here. Still to come this year, they got Columbus, San Jose, and Vancouver in the last week of the season. So if you talk about needing to go 6-4-1 to hit that 100-point mark, if you take care of business against the bad teams, you only need to go 3-4-1 the rest of the way. Obviously, if you get to 100 points, your spot's locked. Like, you're not missing the playoffs with 100 points. That would be insane. My boy Matt Iwanek does the Oilers' magic number, and now it's down to 18. And if you're wondering how exactly that's calculated, the Oilers either have to gain 18 points or the Vegas Golden Knights have to lose out on 18 points. So let's use like tomorrow night. I believe both of those teams are in action. I think Vegas plays. Edmonton is in LA taking on the Kings, another 8:30 p.m. start. And tonight Vegas is taking on Vancouver. So the magic number right now is at 18. If Vegas loses tonight in regulation, it's down to 16. If they lose in OT, it's down to 17. If they win, it stays at 18. It doesn't go up to 20, So the magic number only really counts down. And then if the Oilers were to win tomorrow, that would drop it by 2 points. And you kind of understand what I'm saying here. So that magic number is 18. So we can keep track of that as we keep going as well. Will says, I think we can go 6-4-1. I think the battling until the end for the playoffs will help us stay sharp heading in. Rest is good to an extent. Then it's a hindrance, IMO. Yeah, I agree. I think rest is good, but we see it all the time in the playoffs. Sometimes these high seeds who really don't have a ton to play for down the stretch, they end up not coming out of the gates great in the playoffs. I even think some of that with the Oilers last year in the All-Canadian division was true. Like, they didn't have a ton to play for down the stretch, and right now they certainly do have a lot to play for heading down the stretch. They're playing for home ice. That's huge. They're still, in a way, playing for their playoff life, although they've made things a lot easier on themselves by going 7-2-1 in their last 10. And obviously LA coming off a loss, they're just 5-3-2 in their last 10. So in the last 10 games, Edmonton's managed to pick up 3 points over the LA Kings. It's huge. It's massive. Kylie, we were talking about the McDavid OT winner. She says he makes it look easy because it literally is easy for him. And I love the question he was thrown after the game when McDavid, someone asked him, are you impressed with yourself? It must have been visiting media, because I think Edmonton media knows better than to pepper Connor McDavid with a bunch of questions about himself. He doesn't like talking about himself. But McDavid, there was a bit of a chuckle there. He's now up to 41 goals on the year. And yeah, McDavid, as a couple people have pointed out, could very well hit 50 this year. That's apparently been a goal of his for a while. Can he score 9 in the last 11 games of the season? Anything's possible, especially when you consider in the last 5 games, he has 6, right? So at that pace, yeah, McDavid's going to do it. He's been over a goal a game for the last couple weeks here. I wouldn't doubt McDavid hitting 50. I don't think Draisaitl has enough to get 60 now that he's not healthy. It's really unlikely. I think Matthews is going to get to 60, though. I mean, the fact that he scored 47 and 47 is insane. He's now up to 54 on the year. Same thing. The Leafs have like 11 games to go. I wouldn't be surprised at all. The Leafs have 12 games to go. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Matthews ends up hitting 60. It seems more likely than not at this point, honestly. Hammer asks a question. If you had the choice of winning the division and getting a wild card team or finishing second and getting LA, which would you choose? Gotta think second versus LA is better for us. What say you? Someone earlier on the Facebook chat also, Lance, let's have some real talk here, fellas. Look at the schedule. What are the chances we can push Calgary for first in the division? Don't look back. Keep pushing forward. So I'll handle the first part. Is it possible to catch Calgary? And I still say no. Like Edmonton, you can talk about Calgary's schedule all you want, and I can look it up right here just to see for sure what they have coming up. They get Anaheim tonight, San Jose tomorrow. 2 easy teams. Seattle Saturday, Seattle next Tuesday. Like their next 4 games are more or less layups against very non-competitive teams. They get Vegas after that. Kate, tough matchup. We're probably rooting for the Flames in that one anyways. Then they go Arizona, Chicago. So the Flames schedule isn't tough. The Oilers schedule is, when you look at the fact that they go LA, Colorado, Minnie, Nashville, Vegas, Dallas, Colorado. That's insane. That's a murderer's row of Western Conference opponents, and they're all good. They're all playoff teams, or in Vegas's case, they're trying real hard to be a playoff team. So the Oilers have a tough schedule. That, and you're also 4 points back of the Flames right now. And Calgary has 2 games in hand on you. So if they win those games in hand against the easy teams, you're 8 back of them with 11 to go. It's just not happening. So it's not realistic to expect them to catch the Flames. It's just not going to happen this year. And I like the question that Hammer asks, would you even want to? If you gave me the choice in round 1 between getting the LA Kings or taking a chance that I'm going to have to play the Nashville Predators, I don't want to touch the Preds. Roman Yossi's having a historic season. This guy's going to hit 100 points. If he does hit 100 points, which again, reasonable, possible that he does here. If he hits 100 points, first D-man in 30-some years, I believe. Nuts. UC Saros is a goalie who, much like Connor Hellebuck last year in the All-Canadian division, incredibly capable of stealing a series just on his own. Even if his team doesn't show up, UC Saros can stop 45 shots. He deserves to be in the Vezina conversation this year. You look at LA, their goaltending's been wildly inconsistent this year, very similar to Edmonton. Jonathan Quick, since January 1, has not been great. Cal Peterson's been up and down, roller coaster this year. Their blue line's been incredibly banged up this season. So if their blue line gets healthy, that's a concern. Forward depth, I take the Oilers. I would take the Oilers forward depth over a lot of teams in the Western Conference. pretty much anyone in the Pacific and either of the two wildcard teams, Nashville or Dallas. So the Oilers have that advantage over pretty much anyone. But I would much rather play the LA Kings than the Nashville Predators. So I would say that sitting in second is a better spot than winning the division right now. As weird as that sounds, you would lose home ice advantage in round 2 if you were to play the Flames, which sucks. That's not great. You would like to have home ice advantage in every series you play in. But I would rather play LA in round 1 than Nashville. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of people would rather play LA than Nashville. Chris asks, if McDavid hits 50, does he win the Hart over Matthews? Yes. I think if McDavid goes on that kind of run, I mean, the Matthews run to 60 would be so good, though. But McDavid hitting 50, the game winners, I think, helps his case as well. If Draisaitl's out for a week and McDavid keeps carrying the Oilers, that little nugget there, that bit of recency bias that voters would have, I think that's an element as well. So, I mean, the Hart Trophy race is going to be tight no matter what. I think McDavid and Draisaitl may end up stealing a few votes from each other, which is going to happen with two teammates. It's just the way the system works. Stealth says Predators hit more than the Kings do. Yeah, I mean, Nashville, Tanner Jeannot and that third line they got there. I think Colton Sissons is a part of it. Nashville's a mean team. The Oilers have proven they can beat LA as well. Granted, LA wasn't healthy, but still, I would not want to touch the Nashville Predators in round 1. Not that it's like a Goliath matchup for the Oilers. They could very well beat Nashville. Nashville's scoring depth isn't as good as some of the other playoff teams, but still. Will asks, lots of people also writing off Foegele for cap space already, or writing off Foegele for next year to clear cap space. I'm in the camp that he will make believers of us in the playoffs. His big body wearing down D-men will come up huge regardless of results. I need to see more from Foegele. Like, I agree there's potential there. That's a guy who, with that physical style that he can play sometimes, he can shine through in the playoffs. Fogel's not done a lot to convince me that he's capable of flipping that switch, though. He's not been overly physical this year. He's not been able to consistently produce offensive scoring chances for the Oilers. He makes a lot of mistakes that leave you scratching your head. I'm not really high on Warren Foegele right now. I'm probably more in the camp of writing him off this offseason to clear out cap space. They could apparently have traded him at the deadline. They didn't. I understand that. You don't move out a piece like that while you're pushing for the playoffs. They weren't in sell mode. But this summer, if you can get someone to give you a third for Foegele, that $2.75 million is the difference between signing Evander Kane and not signing Evander Kane, right? So which one do you pick? Do you take a third and having the money to comfortably sign all three of Kane, Puljujarvi, Yamamoto? Or do you hold on to Foegele and do you let one of those three walk? That decision would be pretty easy, I would imagine. Some call me Timmy97. Foegele had, 7 shot attempts last night and only 1 put on net? When Foegele was on the ice last night for the Edmonton Oilers, and you're going to have to give me a second here while I look that up. Oilers on ice report. When Foegele was on the ice, the Oilers outshot the Sharks 4-1, but those wouldn't have been his shots. The shot attempts when Foegele was on the ice, 12-3. So actually that fourth line for the Oilers had a pretty good game. It was Derek Ryan with Ryan McLeod and Warren Foegele. They played 7:33 together, and the shots were 4-1. Corsi was 12-3. The Oilers' individual numbers, which would be Foegele, at 5-on-5, Warren Foegele was credited with the correct 1 shot on net. So, yeah, his individual Corsi, which would be shot attempts again for those who aren't familiar, would have been 5. So yeah, you're pretty much bang on with that. Foegele would have had 5 attempted shots and just 1 of them hit the net. That's a problem for me. Christian, Tyler, we discussed in our group, what is your order of priority? Yamo, Jesse, Kane. Jesse 1, Yamo 2, Kane 3. Protect your young players, protect your RFAs, get those guys signed. If you need to figure out the goaltending, I'm going to have a piece coming out tomorrow on Oilersnation outlining some of that. You need to figure out the goaltending. You got to get your young RFA players signed. And then if you have money left over, you can splurge on a UFA. And Evander Kane would be splurging on a UFA, in my opinion. So Naeem says, just pray Keith retires. Literally solves all the cap issues. I don't think Duncan Keith's made a lot of money in his career. I don't think he just walks away from $1 million for the sake of retiring. He would probably say, hey, my knee hurts. I'm going on LTIR all year. you can pay me and I'm not playing. And in that case, it still helps the Oilers because you can LTIR them and you'd have to operate the whole year in LTIR, which you probably are anyways with Oscar Klefbom's contract and maybe Mike Smith's contract, which is something I talked about in the article that's coming out tomorrow as well. But Keith retiring, if you don't know that loophole, there's a cap recapture penalty on Keith retiring, right? So if he were to officially file the paperwork and retire, the Oilers would not only lose his $5 million cap hit, they would get a $3 million bonus cushion next year, which means while every other team can only spend $81.5 million, the Oilers could actually exceed that and go to $84.5 million next season because the Hawks, since they're the team that signed it, they would have to take that penalty, that recapture penalty. It's a similar penalty to what the Vancouver Canucks are paying Roberto Luongo still this year. When he retired, there was cap recapture. The Canucks got dinged even though he retired as a member of the Florida Panthers. It's very confusing. I barely understand it. But the Oilers, essentially, if Keith retired, would save $8.5 million on the cap. Lance says, I actually enjoy Keith on the team despite the cap hit. I enjoy Keith on the team too. I think he's given him some really good, solid minutes. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes out there. He's gotten better as the year went on as well. I like having him in the lineup. I think in the playoffs, you're going to like having Duncan Keith in the lineup. That, and I'm not starting this debate now. I'm just saying my piece. That doesn't change the fact they paid too much for him asset-wise. They were in a position of strength and Ken Holland got screwed. And he's making too much on the cap. He's a good fourth D-man. Good fourth D-man. Veteran presence, sure. Yep, absolutely. That's not worth $5.5 million. You know, Tampa Bay Lightning get good vets like Corey Perry for $1 million, and you can say the tax thing and all that, blah blah blah. But that's the bottom line. The Oilers overpaid. Anyways, Will says, I think we keep one of Cassian or Fogle. Kane money can come from either. I give the spot to the guy who shows up in the playoffs, bangs bodies. We'll wait and see. I'm frustrated with both. Yeah, I think a lot of Oilers fans are frustrated with both Cassian and Fogle. The difference is Oilers fans have been frustrated with Cassian for 2.5 seasons now or whatever it is, and Fogle at least has that new toy appeal kind of thing to him, right? So maybe it's not as bad, but just checking some of the chats here. We're probably going to wrap up right away. We're at the 23-minute mark on today's show. Sebastian, do you think the cap recapture played a part in why Chicago didn't retain? No, because I don't think either side is really considering him retiring. I don't think that was ever a thing. New toy appeal. Yeah, I don't know why I said that. New car shine. I don't know. There's some saying that's in my head that I wanted to get out there. I just don't think any of what I just said made sense. So whatever. We keep moving on. Debate in the Twitch chat. Kylie, how high on the priority list, in your opinion, is it to sign Kulak? Because I'm putting it way up there. And then Stealth said, pretty decent chance of re-signing him. He might want less to stay in Edmonton. Local guy, Stony Plain, right? So there's always that connection. But still, these guys, it's their career. At the end of the day, some guys, and I don't know Brett Kulak, but some guys will be like, yeah, I want to play in my hometown. My family's close. There was the great story about his dad finding out he's coming here in the tractor. Very Alberta. You love to hear it. But Brett Kulak has a limited amount of time to make money in the NHL. If the Oilers are offering him 2.5 by 3 and another team says we're going to give you 3 by 4, you better believe he'd take the money. And he better take the money because that's smart business. Go where you're going to make the most money, right? If he could come in at, 2.25 by 2 or 3 years, you look at that. The only thing that, a little bit makes it complicated is, like Zach just said in the Facebook chat, Broberg. Broberg's a left shot D-man. He showed well when he was up here. I think you want Broberg on your team to start next season. You're going to need cost-effective guys that are going to help with your cap situation. So what's more valuable? Broberg on the ELC or Kulak at 2.2 million? It might be Broberg on the ELC. The wrinkle to this would be if they think Broberg can comfortably play the right side, then you trade Barry, you run Bouchard, Ceci, Broberg on your right side to start next season. You run Keith, Nurse, and Kulak in whatever order you run them in on your left side. Maybe you sign Chris Russell to be your 7th D-man again, $1 million so he can flip-flop either way. And there you go. You have your 7 D-men for next year. There's some versatility with Broberg and Russell being able to play either side. You have to move out Barry to do it, or you bring back Kulak if Keith is gone. If Keith is gone, then it makes a ton of sense to go give Kulak. Even at that point, I'd pay a little more probably. You'd be a little desperate. Then it makes sense to bring back Kulak. George with a good question here. This will be one of the last ones I handle. How many more games does Smith have to play well for us to not feel so nervous when he starts? I think there's a lot of fans who don't feel nervous anymore when Smith starts. I think he's done enough in a lot of people's opinion. Here's his last 6 and what we got. Good game against Buffalo. They're a bad team. He was average against Colorado, 903. That's average. Against San Jose, 933. 2 goals against. That's a good start. St. Louis, he was terrible. 5 goals against. He was off. That game had no business going to OT. It was on Smith. Against Anaheim, very good. Against San Jose, unreal. A great game. I would say his best start of the season. 969 save percentage, the big sexy assist in OT, all that stuff. I'm not fully confident in him yet. I still want to see a little bit more, but I will admit that performance against San Jose had me believing a little bit. I'm nervous consistently when the puck's in the Oilers' end because you never know when that bad one's going in. I have a little bit more confidence that Mikko Koskinen is at least going to stop the pucks he's supposed to, although that I know that doesn't always happen, and he has a bad history here as well and all that stuff. But I'm still a little bit more confident in Mikko as the number 1, but I will admit Smith has done a lot in the last week to kind of change my mind, and I didn't think I'd be saying that. I am a noted Smith detractor, you could say. But last night was really impressive. And Anaheim was a good game as well. But that St. Louis one still lingers a little bit too closely for me. So we'll see how they split up the starts. I would go back to Mikko tomorrow against LA. I would be going to Mikko again tomorrow. I think you still treat him as your number 1. But maybe you go back to Smith on Saturday if Mikko gives up 2 or 3 goals. I don't know. It'll be interesting, though. 11 games to go. I think one of them will get 6. One of them will get 5 or 7 and 4 or something like that. It'll be really, really close the way they split up their starts down the stretch here. Stealth, can't wait till we call up Skinner. No, not happening. Not happening. No Stuart Skinner. They would have started him earlier in the week against Anaheim if they planned on giving him any sort of look. They didn't. So, Nils, if we can get this year's Koskinen and last year's Smith, the Oilers are a handful for every team in the playoffs. Goaltending is really the one thing holding them back. I like their blue line. I think they have 3 pretty good pairings. Tyson Barrie's playing some really good hockey as of late. Kulak's fit in and really calm things down on that bottom pairing. Keith and Bouchard look like they can handle solid minutes. Nurse and Ceci have struggled at times. Nurse is still fighting it, I think. But if they can get going, the blue line, no concerns. The forward depth, when healthy, is unbelievable. It's the goaltending. This team will go as far as their goaltending carries them. I am very confident that against whether it's Calgary, whether it's LA, whether it's Vegas, Nashville, whoever, the Oilers will score 3+ goals a handful of times in a best-of-7 series against anyone. If you can score 3+ goals 4 times in a best-of-7, you better win that series. I'm just not confident the Oilers cannot give up 4+ goals 4 times in a best-of-7 and come away with the series that way. Like, they might have to win some games 6-5 still in the playoffs. They might have to win some games 5-4, 7-5. It sounds ridiculous to say it, but that's very realistically what could end up happening. Before we wrap up, taking a look at tonight's game, courtesy of our friends at PointsBet Canada. If you're in Ontario, PointsBet Canada is live. Go download the app or head over to our Twitter or the Daily Faceoff Twitter and check out the link. Here's what's going on in the NHL tonight. Tampa Bay favored -145 over Washington. Detroit are 230 dogs against Winnipeg. Seattle is in St. Louis. The Flames are taking on the Ducks. The Canucks are taking on the Golden Knights. We are absolutely rooting for the Golden Knights tonight, for the Canucks as Oilers fans. Vegas favored, Vancouver +150. Maybe you're betting with your heart a little. Throw a little on that 150 money line for the Canucks. I think Thatcher Demko's starting for him, so always a decent chance when Demko's between the pipes. My favorite bets tonight, though, Calgary on the puck line is a great spot. We saw how bad that the Ducks looked earlier this week against Edmonton. I love Calgary -1.5. I absolutely love St. Louis if Husso starts -1.5. I think that's a really nice spot for them as well. And on the Daily Faceoff show, I outlined why Robert Thomas and Brandon Saad are the 2 best assist props on tonight's slate. So Calgary -1.5, St. Louis -1.5. Robert Thomas, Brandon Saad are the 2 there. And I think on that note, I am going to wrap things up. Lance says he likes the Detroit pick myself. Jets not playing well. No, Jets not playing great as of late. So yeah, maybe the Detroit Red Wings, what were they on? Sorry, I need to flash this up again so I can see what they were on the payout. Plus 220. Yeah, that's plus 230. That's not bad. That's not bad there in terms of little underdog action. All right. Shout out to Short for the Giant. Shout out to PointsBet Canada as well. Shout out to you for tuning in. Another 30 minutes of hockey talk in the books. I'll be back next Wednesday. I will also be back tomorrow with Caroline Schved. Another Sherwood Ford Giant pregame show. Talk to you then.